Falcon Blues TV with 10bet. Click on the link in the description and use the code SPORT to get 100% back up to £50 when you sign up.
Hello, welcome back to Falcon Blues TV, you filthy animals. Please don't forget to like and subscribe below. And today we're joined by a good friend of the channel, Jim Keoghan. Jim, thanks for coming back, mate.
No worries, thanks for having me.
Oh, no, pleasure's all ours, yeah. How are you doing, Jim?
Yeah, all right. It's an Everton-free week, so that's always a nice breather, isn't it? I mean, I couldn't care less about England, but it's nice to have like one extra, extra week without fretting and having Everton-induced anxiety.
Yeah, I quite enjoy these international breaks now. I used to think, it's an international break, but the last one, I was in Mallorca, so this one's a bit tame, really. What can you do?
Exactly. Just kind of enjoy it before they come back.
Yeah, and it'll be Ipswich away. But we'll talk about Everton a bit later on. But what we are here to talk about we're here to talk about Jim's new book. If you know your history, a young guide to Evertonia for young Evertonians. So quite a bit different, this one, Jim, considering it's aimed at a younger audience.
Yeah, well, I'd written everything he wants to know about Everton, but afraid to ask. We kind of covered the history of the club, and as I was writing that and talking to my son, we kind of thought that format could work for a young bloke, because his experience of Everton has always been the modern club. I think I was the same when I was young Evertonian. I was a kind of a child of the 80s. And often you'd hear about the past. So he'd hear about the 80s and 90s. I'd hear about the 60s and 70s. You wouldn't really kind of have a handle on it. I can recall my dad talking about Dave Hickson and the Holy Trinity, but knowing it, but not kind of really knowing it. So the thought was to create a book that gives a young Evertonian an insight into what our history is, kind of easy to access. So when you see these statues, when you see these kind of figures around the ground, and you hear your dad talking about kind of figures from the past, you can read this and find out that's who that is, and that's when we were good, and that's when we were less good, and also hopefully if kind of young blues have only known the kind of Mashiri shite, a nice reminder that actually Everton have been amazing in the past. We've kind of won titles, cups, European nights, and it hasn't always been like this.
Yeah, speaking of that, I was born in '88, so my dad used to always call me the Jinx. But I mean, we won an FA Cup, but I was 95. But I was too young to appreciate that really. But speaking of your previous book, though, Jim, it was nice that we were included in that. It was nice to have my name in print and the list on there. So it was nice to show my dad that, because he frowns upon the language that I use on this channel sometimes, because he's like, if I listen to you on the radio, you don't swear, but I always say, oh, well, YouTube's a bit of a free-for-all, really, so, yeah.
The list is great. I love that.
No, I appreciate that. I haven't put no one on it for about a month. Maybe I'm mellowing in my older age, but or no one's annoyed me lately. But so was it different for you to write for a younger audience compared to your previous novels?
Yeah, so talking about swearing, I have to kind of, obviously it can't have any swearing in it. So that's kind of the first thing. Yeah, you have to try and think more like a young fan. I think kind of you have to put in things there that I wouldn't have put in the adult book. Things like goal celebrations. As an adult, I couldn't give a shit about goal celebrations, but I think young kids seem to like that kind of stuff. So I kind of put in a bit more about that, maybe remove some of the drier elements that older fans would care about, but maybe younger fans wouldn't. Yeah, and just kind of make it, I guess, kind of a much easier read. Luckily, I can run it past my son, because he's gone through that journey. He's gone, he's nearly 16 now, but he's been a young blue. So everything that was in there, I could kind of show him and thinking, would you have liked this? Would you want to know this? And if he goes, no, then it's out. So it's he's kind of been like my editor in this instance, really.
That's a fair play. So how old's your son, Jim?
So he's 16 in a few weeks. So again, he's only known horrible stuff, really. As he's kind of majority as Evertonian has pretty much been Mashiri, tail end of kind of Moyes, Martinez, but his kind of formative Everton years have been awful, really.
Yeah, I mean, I look back quite fondly on the Moyes era, and it's sad to say, like, at the time we were wanting more, weren't we? And like, you
Yeah.
don't know how good you got it sometimes.
But I think he kind of his first kind of proper season, where he's like proper Evertonian, was the first Martinez one, where like things were really exciting. He loved Lukaku.
Yeah.
And I think he kind of that kind of grabbed him. And then obviously what followed was just season after season of awfulness. And I think that's kind of it's made him like a proper Evertonian, because I think if you can experience this as a young kid and still love the club, then nothing can break you, I think.
Yeah, I always feel sorry for younger Evertonians, especially in this day and age, because a lot of them will be coming into school and all, like the mates who are Liverpool fans, seeing like, winning trophies and stuff. So I was happy after that Palace game when people give a stick for people running on the pitch. I was like, oh no, at least the kids have got something to sort of celebrate there. And I mean, I didn't run on the pitch. I'm too old for that malark, I think I did it against Coventry, like, but one of them where everyone robbed a bit of turf out of the Goodison, like.
Yeah, I think you as a fan, you need that. You need some kind of emotional punch, don't you? Even if it's just relief, you need something where you can look and you've got that moment when you're kind of really strongly connected to the club. And obviously, in the absence of like trophies, young fans need something. So maybe for them, I can recall like the escapes in 94, 98. Yeah, they were still kind of. I wouldn't want to go through them again, but they were still amazing afternoons. I mean, 94 was insane. That's kind of one of the most memorable games I've ever been to. And, I've seen Everton win stuff, but actually emotionally, I don't think nothing comes close to that, I don't think.
Yeah, I remember my brother telling me a story about the day on the radio that some fella at the Wimbledon game just got off at half time and went down to the Albert Dock, just sat there. And like, this is in a day and age where there's no smartphones, there's no internet, so he's just assumed Everton had been relegated, got in his car, put the radio on and heard that Everton had turned it round. Like, he'd be gutted there though, wouldn't he, if you'd left that game?
I think so, especially if you sat through those first 20 minutes. So you've sat through the absolute low and then got off, and then you've missed kind of the recovery. Yeah, but I can, you can see why they left at that point, because it was so, at that moment, so kind of so bleak, and you're just thinking, we're done, absolutely done. And he missed out on something amazing.
Yeah. If anyone is interested in getting Jim's book, it is in the link below. So how long did it take you to write this book, Jim?
It's pretty quick, about a few months. It wasn't too bad, really. I think because I know a lot of the source material through writing other Everton books, so it's all and your own knowledge of Everton. So actually, it was more kind of the only difficult bit was kind of cutting stuff out, I guess, and trying to make sure that it was kind of. I think the most important thing is that it's an easy read. I think that's because I think a young fan's not going to sit through like 30,000 words of Everton, and no matter how much they love the club. So it was getting it down to like 8,000 words, and just kind of making sure I think making it not just about like the history of like the facts and figures, but also to give young Evertonians a feel of what Everton are. So it's not just the good, it's the bad as well. And kind of shape what shapes the modern Evertonian. So you put things in there like what is Everton that, and give examples. So when you hear these kind of phrases, they get a feel of kind of why we are the way we are, I guess, as Evertonians.
Yeah, I love the artwork on the cover as well. I was saying to my missus, it reminds me of the Ricky Gervais show, sort of like the design on it.
That's my brother-in-law. He's an amazing artist.
Really? Yeah.
Yeah, he's done. He did Everton number 9. He did the previous book, and he's done that as well. He's phenomenal.
So, how many Everton books is this for you now, Jim?
5, I think it is. 5, yeah, I think it is. Yeah.
Right. 5, yeah. Wow.
That's probably enough.
So, what was your favourite part about writing this book?
I think it's always nice to talk, and it was quite nice to do it with my son, to talk about Everton and kind of pick through his kind of, I guess, to kind of see Everton through his eyes, and kind of how he's kind of interacted with the club, and what he understands as kind of what Everton are and what Evertonian is, because I think it's kind of it differs. I think a young blue nowadays, I think, is different to a young blue in the 70s, the young blue in the 80s. I think Everton reshapes how you view football, how you view the club. So He's weirdly a much more pessimistic Evertonian at this age than I was at 15, 16. He's kind of...
Oh, really? Yeah.
Yeah, because I'd seen success. So, I mean, I was 16 in like, I think maybe like 1992. So to me, Everton were like a big club. They were just going through like a little mediocre patch. Whereas, and I thought we'd obviously just be a big club forever and we'd win trophies again. So at 16, I was still relatively optimistic. Whereas at kind of 16 now, he's so bleak. You just can't see any brightness on the horizon. It's just kind of, we are shit. We're going to be shit forever, and this is just what it is. And it's
it's just the proper Evertonian, then, isn't he?
I think that wasn't the case, 30, 40 years ago. I think young Evertonians were still quite kind of filled with hope, and I think it's the modern experience is sort of it's broken a lot of people, hasn't it? I guess.
Yeah, I mean, like, I was born in '88, so I grew up in the '90s, and Everton weren't really great. I would say, like, a lot of fighting relegation and that. But the one thing I will say about the '90s is we always had a pretty good derby record. Like, we did do a lot, but we never got beat by them much. I think Roy Evans maybe have won. I think he won one derby, if that. Gerard Houllier had a pretty good record, but we never got turned over by them. We never got battered by them, really. Yeah, you know what I mean? So, and like, we always did well against the so-called bigger teams. But I think Evertonians now, I mean, like, last season was 14 years for our first win at Goodison, and then that win at Anfield was during COVID, so that was a bit tainted, but it is few and far between lately.
Yeah, it's been kind of, I think it's been really hard. I mean, it's not just kind of living with their success. I think when you can barely beat them, it's you think how many defeats we've racked up over the past 25 years compared to the previous 25. I mean, this is our worst period in terms of dealing with the shite, and I think it's you can see why it weighs heavy on young fans, because all the experience is like negativity, really, and it's I can appreciate why he's the way he is. He shouldn't be at that age. He should be filled with hope and optimism. But actually, Everton don't offer that much, do they?
Not anymore. Yeah, the goal part's gotten bigger, like, but so was there any like least favourite parts that you about writing the book, or any parts that you found difficult or challenging?
It's I think it's kind of challenging to kind of how much of the kind of the adult blues you put in it. Because I about putting in kind of like figures we hate. Because should a young blue be reading about kind of figures that Evertonians despise? But it's I didn't put hate in the end. I put don't like, because I still think it's important. So like you include people like Gerard and Son and people like that, because again, you'll, as a young fan, you'll see these figures booed if like Son's playing. You'll hear your dad and his mates talk about Gerard and people like that, and you'll wonder why they're kind of filled with sudden rage. So I think it was difficult to kind of strike the balance, I guess. It's easier when you're writing for adult Evertonians. You can just get stuck in and kind of let the hate flow. But I think when you're dealing with younger blues, maybe I had to step a bit more carefully.
Yeah. And what age range would you say this book's aimed at, Jim?
I think probably like around I think 7 or 8 upwards. I think they can probably get something out of it. I think there's kind of there's enough there, even if they're kind of relatively new to kind of reading that. I think there's still stuff in there you can pick out, and it's not it's structured like everything you want, not everything but afraid to ask. It's like there's just bits. It's not like chapters. There's bits and bobs. You can pick it up, put it down, and if something pops up, like you think, how many times you won the league and when was it? Just flick in there. It's there. Who are those statues? They're in there as well. So what's that song? What are the words? That's there. So kind of it's kind of something you can just pick up and put down again if you want.
Yeah, my girlfriend's son Keoghan, he's 3, and I've got him supporting Everton. But he's at that age where he just loves Everton, and they're just great to him. You know what I mean? Like, get him the Everton kits and he's made up, and he loves listening to Spirit of the Blues. He was at his nan's the other week, and she had to text my girlfriend going, he's asking for this Everton song, but what's it called? He just keeps saying Paul's Everton song. So yeah, he's at that perfect age where Everton are great. But
fantastic.
That'll soon change. That, like,
yeah, definitely. Yeah, that won't last. But like, it's nice while it's there, isn't it?
Oh, of course it is, yeah. So Christmas is coming up, and this sounds like a great stocking filler for young Evertonians, Jim.
Hopefully, yeah. I mean, hopefully what it is it's the ideal, like it's a handbook, I guess, for young Blues. That's kind of what the aim was. You can, hopefully, anything you want to know about Everton, anything you've heard, any kind of fact or figure, it's in there. So it should give you the handle once you've finished it of like what we are, kind of what is this club that I've fallen in love with. That kind of just is so frustrating. What is Everton? What are Evertonians? And hopefully this book kind of answers those questions.
Yeah, you can find out why Everton are called Everton as well. And if you want to find that out, you've got to purchase the book in the link below. So get doing it. And it's at a very reasonable price as well. And there'll be a link for Jim's other books as well. I love the Bakayoko one as well. Ibrahim Bakayoko, what a guy. Remember him, eh?
Jesus, yeah. That's kind of a proper 90s signing, wasn't it? It was.
I remember he scored 2 worldies against Blackburn, and that was about it. I think he scored a free kick in the League Cup as well.
Yeah, but he was like 4.5 million, which back then was like a lot of money.
It's a lot of money.
For Everton,
for Everton as well.
Yeah, that was kind of, I think that was the end of our money, wasn't it? That was kind of that's when it ran out. After that, he was like the last hurrah of kind of the Johnson years, and then it was like no money.
Yeah, I always felt sorry for Walter Smith because I always thought he had a real good eye for talent. And like, you think some of the great signings he made up for relatively little money, like David Weir, Tommy Gravis, and they weren't all great, no, Richard Goff on a free.
Yeah. And he had nothing to work with, did he, for you? I mean, I know the football was intermittently grim. Well, not intermittently, it was often grim. But like, if you've got no money, but like now, if you're skins, it's hard to kind of bring in the talent, isn't it?
Well, that's it. And unfortunately, Jim, I will ask you about the current Everton side at the moment. What do you make of the start of the season so far?
I think it's frustrating, to be honest. I think we've had a relatively easy run of fixtures compared to a lot of clubs. I know we've got a much harder one coming up. And you look at that and you're thinking, we should be better off than we are now. It's I don't know. I feel like I know that kind of there's context. I know we haven't got a lot of money, and I know there've been injuries, but I feel like Dyche has us locked in sort of like firefighting mode. That's all he can deliver at the moment. And so he probably looks at this run and thinks, oh, well, that point total isn't too bad because he's locked in a relegation fight. But actually, you wonder if a better manager would have got us on 10 or more points by now, because actually those games are they're not all easy, but we should have got more wins. We should have got more points than we have. And it's a worry because what's coming up. There's a much harder run on the horizon.
Yeah, December's brutal. December's just
so like if we don't kind of rack up the points soon and get like a escape velocity from the bottom three, we're going to hit that run. And if we hit that run in a bad position, then we go into potentially the new year in real danger. And it's one of those things, isn't it? It kind of, I know there's, as I say, I know there's context. I know Everton aren't, particularly great, but I think the first 11 is a mid-table team. There's decent players there. I think maybe the players are better than Dyche at the moment. So it's it'll be interesting to see what happens when the takeover completes, because that's kind of scheduled for, is it December? They were saying probably.
Yeah, I was just about to ask you that because obviously Dyche's contract's up in the summer. Do you think new owners will want to have a new man in, have their own people in?
Yeah, I think it depends where we are. To be honest, I think if they come in and we are bottom three, I think he's probably done. If we're mid-table, they might just think, oh, we'll get through this rest of the season and we'll make a change in the summer. I don't think he's, if a new owner comes in with cash, we get into a new stadium which will generate more cash, I don't think Dyche propels you into the top six. I think he's not just not that kind of manager. If you're a new owner, and obviously they'll be thinking about European football and the future, you don't look at Sean Dyche and think, oh, this is the man to deliver Champions League football or Europa League football even, or your conference football. He's just not that kind of manager. He's like an emergency manager. You bring him when things are bad.
Yeah, he's kind of fell into that sort of Sam Allardyce bracket, hasn't he? Come in and stabilise the club.
Yeah, you kind of the football's good in, but you accept that because you're in dire straits. But it's I think it'd be interesting to see what happens, and I think a lot of it will depend on where we are. But I'd imagine this time next season, I can't picture Dice being our manager.
No. And in that respect, he has done his job, I suppose, hasn't he? And he's had difficult circumstances, you know what I mean? No real money to spend, the points deductions. I suppose he's had the worst sort of set of cards dealt to him.
Yeah, he has. I think he was the right man for that moment. I think he got us through. He got us through that kind of when we had, couldn't bring in players, we had no money, points deductions. The confidence was on the floor in the club, and obviously the ownership thing was rumbling on. Machedi wasn't interested in kind of spending. So, but you feel like we're on the cusp of. I know it's Everton, so you got to be really careful because sometimes we can turn into a cul-de-sac. But it feels like we're kind of on the cusp of something. The new ground will bring in loads of cash. The new owners seem to have deeper pockets. So it could be a case of thank you, Sean, for that. But time to move on.
Yeah, I agree. If any players that have stood out for you so far this season, Jim?
Njai, I think he's kind of
skilly man.
Yeah, I think he's just kind of when was the last time he had somebody exciting to watch? He's
someone that just gets you out of your seat, isn't he?
Yeah, he can take the ball and move it like 30 yards, take people on. He's not always going to be good, and he's had quite matches, and he's not. I don't think he's necessarily a Dyche player. I don't think he's kind of a defensive workhorse, but he's exciting. Things haven't been exciting for Jesus, I don't know, probably since James. Probably it's been a while since we've had genuine a player who gets you off your seat. So he's been a bright spark. Aside from that, probably nothing else really. It's been he's kind of he's a player who you can see being there for hopefully for a while, and where you have a better team around him, it'd be really exciting. But at the moment, he's kind of he's one bright spot amongst. I think it's been a relatively dire start to the season, to be honest. It's just the football's grim, and we're not an easy watch, are we? Essentially,
no, we're not. We're definitely not an easy watch. Did see a great tweet about Ndai. Someone had put up, it was Whitney Houston, and it just said Ndai. So it really amused me that. I'd like to see that getting belted out in the Gladys Street at some point this season. Don't know if I can carry the vocals for that, but so the link is below for Jim's new book. Jim, any ideas for any new Everton books coming up on the horizon, or?
I don't know. I think I could do the Everton break at the moment, but I don't know. I think I always thought we'd do one for the Machedi years, but Lindsay and the Toffee Web's done that amazing one. I've forgotten what it's called now, but it's kind of forensically details the hell of the Machedi years. But maybe once the kind of the new era starts and we kind of get into the new ground, maybe there'll be something. It'd be nice to write a book about Everton being good. That would make.
Wouldn't that be refreshing?
Make a nice change where you're writing about kind of European nights and cups and that kind of stuff, because it's most of what I've written has been relatively shit.
Yeah, I think that Everton book that you're talking about there, Jim, I think that'll be in the fiction genre. That, to be honest,
science fiction, yeah.
But we will we can live in hope, can't we?
Yeah. Well, that's what we got. Yeah.
But by all accounts, all the Roma fans seem happy with the Freakins, so but then again, they haven't dealt with Evertonians yet, have they? So we shall see on that one.
And also, it'd be hard to be worse than Machedi. I mean, never say never, but he set such a low bar for kind of ownership, hasn't he? So I mean, as long as the new owners don't push us to points of administration, they're probably doing a good job.
I always think back with Machedi was like an Iranian who got his money from Russian steel. He just sounds like a Bond villain, you know what I mean?
And luck as well, yeah.
Yeah, that's probably just missing a cat sitting on his lap.
Exactly, that would be,
Yeah. But no, listen, Jim, it's been great to have you on again, and hopefully we'll have you on again soon. Hopefully with a new Everton book that's a bit more optimistic, I suppose, or good news to talk about.
Fingers crossed. Cheers, Paul.
Yeah, and you can get the the link below is for Jim's book. If you know your history, so please click on the link below and check it out. But yeah, thanks again, Jim.
No worries. Thanks for having me on.
Oh no, it's a pleasure. And as always, up the fucking toffees, Colin Chong.